Hello. Welcome everybody. Sir, GB Reddy sir. Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
sir.
I'm here. Morning.
Start చేద్దామా sir?
Yes.
Okay. So, good morning everybody and welcome. ఈ రోజు ప్రెస్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్యూరో మినిస్ట్రీ ఆఫ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్రాడ్కాస్టింగ్ ఆధ్వర్యంలో నిర్వహిస్తున్నటువంటి ఈ వెబినార్ సంవిధాన్ దివస్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ డే నవంబర్ 26 అంటే రేపు ఉంది, టుమారో ఉంది. ఈ సందర్భంగా ఈ రోజు మేము రేపు చాలా హెక్టిక్ షెడ్యూల్ ఉంది. అట్లనే మన కీ స్పీకర్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ఎక్స్పర్ట్ సారు, అట్లనే చాలా వ్యాస్ట్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఇన్ టీచింగ్ లా ప్రొఫెసర్ జీబీ రెడ్డి గారి టైం కుదరడం వల్ల ఈ రోజు మనం ఈ వెబినార్ నిర్వహించుకోవడం జరుగుతుంది. ఈ వెబినార్ కి సార్ కీ స్పీకర్ గా ఉంటారు. అలానే మా డైరెక్టర్ జనరల్ వెంకటేశ్వర్ సార్ కూడా జాయిన్ అవుతారు లేటర్. ప్రస్తుతం మా డైరెక్టర్ పిఐబి ప్రెస్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్యూరో అండ్ రీజనల్ అవుట్ రీచ్ బ్యూరో శ్రీమతి శృతి పాటిల్ మేడం లైవ్ ఉన్నారు. మేడము ఈ వెబినార్ కి కోఆర్డినేట్ చేస్తారు. ఓవర్ టు డైరెక్టర్ శృతి పాటిల్ మేడం.
Namaste and welcome to all the participants and our honorable key speaker to this webinar. As you are all aware, tomorrow is the Constitution Day, and that is because the Constitution of India was adopted on 26 November 1949, and though it came into effect on the 26th of January 1950. Sorry, I said 26 November 1949 and it came into effect on 26 January 1950. So, but why this day is being celebrated? Why the interest since last year on this day? As per our Honorable Prime Minister, the Government of India is making this effort to reaching out to all the citizens to bring about greater awareness about our citizens' fundamental duties. A theme which was launched on the with the key objectives being, this is to reiterate to the people of that they are the custodians of the Constitution, the values and principles contained therein. It is also to remind the citizens of their duties towards the fellow citizens and the society and the nation. This is also to encourage the citizens to take pride in the spirit of nationhood, and of course to help in the promotion of a sense of discipline and commitment towards the nation and mobilize the energy of citizens in nation building. So this being the context of the Constitution Day, we are very happy and privileged to have among us Professor GB Reddy to kindly enlighten us further on the topic. If I could give a small introduction to the honorable speaker, and then we will go about our webinar for today. Professor Reddy is a lawyer turned academician who is well known in the field and has also authored more than 20 renowned books on various topics such as women and law, intellectual properties rights and law, copyright law, practical advocacy of law, and many more, and judicial activism and many more subjects. And a couple of his books have also been reviewed by Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer too. He has previously worked as the principal, University College of Law, and the head of Department of Law, Osmania. And he has been the visiting faculty at various reputed institutions, including the AP Judicial Academy, AP Excise Academy, CCRT, NAARM, NISA, Acharya Nagarjuna University, Bangalore University. He has been the co-convener of AP Law Set and PG Law Set, and currently he is the convener of the ES Law Set too. And he is also the chairperson of the Ethics Committee of CDFT Hyderabad, member of the Academic Council of the Nalsara University, and he is currently the director, University Foreign Relations Office, Osmania University. We are indeed very privileged to have you, sir, in this platform. And I'm sure the participants would be eager to listen to you. And now I hand over the platform to you, sir, for your presentation today. Over to you, G. P. Reddy, sir. So you're not audible, sir?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Shruti Patil, Director, PIB and ROB, Sri S. Venkateshwar, Director General South, PIB, Sri Koteshwar Rao Garu, FPO, Sri Shivacharan Reddy Garu, and other respected officials of PIB in Hyderabad, and dear student and faculty friends who joined this program, the webinar. For the sake of understanding by some of the students hailing from rural areas and Telugu medium, I was asked to speak in Telugu also, but I think a combination of both will serve the purpose. And moreover, I'm not accustomed to use any kind of Shakespearean language. So my language is very simple in English as well. Therefore, first I will make a presentation for about half an hour in English. Then I will sum up in Telugu. It will serve the purpose. I hope that I have the consent of all my friends and the officials.
Sure, sir. Please carry on.
Fine. Thank you. As all of you are aware, as explained by Mrs. Shruti Patil, tomorrow, that is 26th November, is going to be celebrated as the Constitution Day for the last 6 years. Probably this is the 6th year. Before that, we used to celebrate, and we are still celebrating the same day as the Law Day. Because on this day, the great Constitution of India, which is first and foremost a social document and a political document, was adopted in the Constituent Assembly in the year 1949. After sustained and hard efforts made by statesmen of the highest order, led by Dr. Ambedkar, the Constitution has come to be drafted, discussed, and ultimately adopted on this day in 1949. Well, when we are talking about the significance of the Constitution Day, we must understand the necessity of inculcating among us, among all the citizens, a constitutional culture, a culture which denotes the recognition that Constitution of any country, including Bharat Samvidhan, is supreme lex loci, supreme law of the land. Among all the laws, this is the supreme law. It is the Constitution which creates government institutions, legislature, Shasan Vyavastha, the executive, and the judiciary, apart from all the other official institutions and agencies. And Constitution also limits their powers in the larger public interest. It not only gives powers, but also imposes limitations. This is another meaning of constitutional culture. Then, another important principle is that Constitution comes from the people. It is made by the people. If we look at preamble to the Constitution of India, it starts with "We the people of India." It is the people of India who adopted, enacted, and have given to themselves the constitution. No doubt the idea has been borrowed from American Constitution's preamble, but ultimately constitutional culture denotes that the people are sovereign. Then constitutions are dynamic, ever changing. We are today witnessing a time when our great constitution has been amended 104 times so far since 1950, which shows that constitutions don't remain static. They keep on changing in accordance with the changing needs of the society and changing times. Then constitution is supreme because as the people we may agree, disagree, dissent from the contents of the constitution, but still we have to follow until the constitution is changed. And last point is that constitution is meant for all. Constitution is not made with the intention of binding only a particular section or certain sections of the society. Constitution is equally binding on all the citizens. It is meant for protection of all the citizens. Whatever spirit has to be followed is followed by all the citizens. So constitution is uniformly applicable to all the population. This is the meaning of constitutional culture, Rajyanga Sanskriti, because we are deriving our power, we are deriving our rights, we are deriving our freedoms from the constitution, whether it is the governors, that is the rulers, the government and its agencies and authorities, or the governed, the people, the common man. Everyone traces the source of their power to the constitution. This is the greatness of constitution, and understanding this is the true meaning of constitutional culture, and which is need of the hour. If there is a constitutional culture which informs all the institutions of governance, which informs the behavior of the citizens and all the members of the society, certainly we can expect a welfare state, we can witness good governance, which is the ultimate goal of the constitution. Well, you know that as far as the means, the methods of achieving this constitutional culture are concerned, we must understand that government has its own role to play. Judiciary has its designated functions and powers to protect constitutional cultures. Civil society, the non-governmental organizations, they also have their role to play. But ultimately, it is the people, it is the citizens who are responsible for developing and continuing a constitutional culture. Because government is not without people. In a democratic system, government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Judiciary consists of judges. Judges are people themselves. Civil society and non-governmental organizations, they also consist of the people. Ultimately, if the people understand and respect the constitutional culture, then certainly this will be continued for the betterment of the society and the nation. This is one important aspect. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, long time back, at the time of making of the constitution, described our constitution as the Dharmam Kshatrasya Kshatram. Dharmam Kshatrasya Kshatram means Dharma, the righteousness, is the king of kings. It is the ruler of both the people and rulers themselves. It is the sovereignty of law we have asserted through this constitution. So ultimately it is sovereignty of the law, supremacy of the law, the rule of law, which is sought to be achieved through the Constitution in the words of Pandit Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. Then coming to the constitutional culture, where do you find it in the Indian Constitution? Just look at the preamble, the preface to the Constitution, which speaks about four important pillars, four important goals of the Constitution: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, the sense of common brotherhood and unity and integrity of the country. This is the culture, ultimately. This is the main goal which should be secured, and it should be secured, it will be secured through many methods and many means. And one of the most important means is through the fundamental duties, which can be very effective if they are properly discharged in ensuring that constitutional culture informs all the institutions of governance and the individual citizen's life. So I am looking at the fundamental duties as the means of ensuring constitutional governance, ensuring constitutional morality, constitutionalism. You know, in our constitutional law, in the political science discourse, even in civil society organizations, beautiful phrases are used: constitutional spirit, constitutional morality, transformative constitutionalism, so on and so forth. But everything is possible if there is a constitutional culture. And constitutional culture comes when we are, in fact, in tune with what our fundamental duties are. The PIB Hyderabad has chosen a very important and relevant topic for this year's Constitution Day, that is Constitution Culture and Fundamental Duties. Because in modern times, people are more interested in rights, not the duties. They are like children. I think our children also, they don't speak about their duties, but they always demand their rights, assert their rights. Sometimes the rights and duties don't appear to be dependent on each other at all, because they say it is your duty to provide, it is our right. Think about your duties, but think only about our rights, nothing else. Whatever may be the case, during the last 70 years of working of this great Constitution, we have to remember that the rights as well as duties are correlative, if not totally dependent on each other. The rights can be better enjoyed only when the duties are effectively discharged. If the duties are not discharged, how can the rights arise? How can the rights be implemented or enforced? This is one important aspect. What I am trying to tell you is that we have to respect not only the rights, but we must also recognize our duties. If we are successful in discharging our individual fundamental duties, then I think there will not be much necessity to demand enforcement of rights, because most of the rights which are our duties, or most of the duties which are our rights, all of them are interrelated and interdependent. This is one important aspect. Now, on this occasion, we have to remember the great personalities who gave this Constitution to us. We have to remember the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly itself was elected for the purpose of framing a constitution for independent India. Drafting committee was one of the most important committees. It was headed by Dr. Ambedkar, consisted of N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar, Sir Alladi Krishna Swamy Iyer, K. M. Munshi, Muhammad Sadadullah, N. Madhavrao, D. T. Krishnamachari, D. P. Kaitan, B. N. Rao from the present Mysore was the constitutional advisor to the assembly. S. N. Mukherjee was the chief draftsman. And there was constitutional art also, because we have to remember all these great people. But first in this line stands the indomitable Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, who designed this constitution as the chief architect and the one person who spoke in the Constituent Assembly the maximum number of words. One of the 2 or 3 persons who had been on number of committees. And today's constitutional philosophy is deeply influenced by the statesman Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a great intellectual. Now, coming to the other aspects of the Constitution, we must remember that the framers of the Constitution, led by Dr. Ambedkar, the Constituent Assembly, presided over by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, both of them, they ensured that the intention, the spirit of the Constitution was kept intact. Dr. Ambedkar said, I feel, however good a constitution may be, it will turn out to be bad if the people who are called upon to work it happen to be bad. However bad a constitution may be, it may turn out to be good if the people who are responsible for working it happen to be good lot. And he emphasized on 3 basic principles: equality, liberty, and fraternity. And he always maintained that they are not separate from each other. They are part of the same trinity, which is very important, because one cannot be divorced from other. You can't say that liberty is different from equality, equality is different from fraternity. This is one important aspect. Then, in fact, Supreme Court of India took almost 28 long years after 1950 to emphasize the essence of this saying in Maneka Gandhi's case, relating to expansion of the meaning of right to life and personal liberty. Dr. Rajendra Prasad also, he mentioned, the first president of India, the chairman of the Constituent Assembly, he mentioned that a country can have only the government it deserves. If the people are capable and men of character and integrity, they would be able to make the best of the most defective constitution also. Here both of them agreed with each other, Dr. Ambedkar as well as Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And according to Dr. Rajendra Prasad, if the people who are elected are not with any character and integrity, then you can't expect the constitutional spirit to prevail. Then they also warned that there is a fissiparous tendency arising out of various elements in our life. We have communal differences, caste differences, language differences, regional differences, and so on and so forth. If the people are of strong character, if they are men of vision, if they are the men who will not sacrifice the interests of the country at large for the sake of smaller groups and areas, who will rise over the prejudices which are born out of all these differences, certainly, we can have the best constitution, best nation. I am drawing your attention to these 2 statements, one by Dr. Ambedkar, other by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, only to drive home the point that the framers of the Constitution intended the same to be worked by the men of integrity and character. When we discharge our fundamental duties effectively, we can always say that yes, our Constitution, our government, our nation is in safe hands. This is one important aspect. Now, coming to the other aspects, we are now coming to the next limb of our presentation today, fundamental duties. The fundamental duties, you know very well, were not part of the Constitution. Even a school-going kid also would say that they came into our Constitution in the year 1976 by virtue of 42nd Constitutional Amendment. And in fact, the framers of the Constitution never thought that the fundamental duties are required to be imposed on the citizens. Just like the American framers of their Constitution thought that fundamental rights are not required. In the original American Constitution also it's the same thing. They thought that Britishers ruled them for such a long time. Therefore, when Americans are going to rule America, fundamental rights will be respected. Maybe similar thinking was there on the part of framers of the Indian Constitution. And who said that? Probably who preferred not to have fundamental duties. But in 1976, during emergency, along with other major constitutional amendments, major provisions which were affected by 42nd Amendment, this was a new addition. And let me tell you that very unfortunately, fundamental duties have been overshadowed by the emergency. Because most of the changes brought by 42nd Constitutional Amendment were undone by 44th Amendment in 1978. Participants. But if they are going to talk about the duties, I am very sure that similar attention will not. Enacting, implementing, and invigorating compliance with fundamental duties. Not my words. Way back in 1998, Justice J.S. Verma Committee, a committee was appointed under the chairmanship of Justice J.S. Verma, former Chief Justice of India, to look into the implementation of fundamental duties. The committee consisted of eminent persons, achievers in the public life, and they made this observation. Future of India lies in acting, implementing, and invigorating compliance with fundamental duties. If fundamental duties are properly discharged, certainly, we will have a great nation. I'm not here to tell you about the story of or history of fundamental rights. Varan Singh Committee, which was appointed to suggest changes to the Constitution in 1975 and 76, it made a recommendation about inclusion of fundamental duties. They were included because even Universal Declaration of Human Rights, made in 1948 after the two world wars, after the Second World War, in 1948, contains a provision. There is an article there, Article 29, Subclause 1. It says that everyone has duties to the community. If I am a member of the community, right? Yeah, could be. That could be one of the reasons, right? If everyone has membership of a community, Article 29 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights says everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of the personality is possible. Full and the free development of personality is possible only when the duties towards the community are discharged by every member of that community. Community means society here, not caste, class, religion, or whatever. This is one important facet, and this has been one of the, basis or the inspirations for including the fundamental duties in the Indian Constitution in 1976. Now, let's look at the 11 fundamental duties, because originally there were 10 fundamental duties, and later on 11th fundamental duty was added in 2002 by virtue of 86th constitutional amendment, imposing a duty on the parents and guardians to provide free and compulsory education, to provide opportunities of education to all the children between 6 and 14 years under their charge. So there are 11 fundamental duties. You can rest assured that I am not going to read them verbatim. I am not going to explain their meaning. I will simply try to explain their context. This is the point I am trying to make out. Right? For example, the very first fundamental duty is to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals. This is the constitutional culture I am talking about. Every citizen, the language used is, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India. Shall be the duty of every citizen of India. Not maybe, shall be. It is our mandatory duty to abide by the Constitution. That is constitutional culture. Then respect its ideals. I mentioned about the ideals in the preamble. We are talking about liberty, equality, justice, fraternity. They are the ideals. And constitutions, institutions also, whatever are the institutions which are, created under the Constitution, that is also equally important. And to respect national flag and national anthem also. This is the point. What I am trying to tell you is that just by hoisting the national flag, it will not amount to sufficient respect. Of course, from the beginning of this century, thanks to a Supreme Court judgment in Naveen Jindal case, almost every citizen of India can hoist the national flag atop his residence also, not only on the public offices, not only on the occasion of, let us say, 15th August or 26th January. But respecting the national flag is equally important, because that is a symbol of our sovereignty, the symbol of our patriotism, our identity, and that cannot be ignored. This is first point. Then respecting the national anthem. Everyone respects the national anthem, should respect the national anthem. But in recent times, you have seen a few, cases and all. For example, sometime in 2016 or so, in a judgment called Shyam Narayan Chokse versus State of MP, the Supreme Court held that, in fact, there is something called constitutional patriotism. Constitutional patriotism. Rajyanga Paramaina Desha Bhakti. And that cannot be ignored even when you are going to watch a movie in the cinema theater. Therefore, Justice Deepak Mishra led bench held that standing up silently and respectfully when the national anthem is played before the movie starts in every cinema theater is a fundamental duty under Article 51A of the Constitution, the very first fundamental duty. Of course, relaxations were given subsequently to senior citizens, patients, and many others. But certainly, there's nothing wrong in standing up respectfully for few minutes, maybe about a minute, for in fact, singing of the national anthem, playing of the national anthem, rather than singing of the national anthem. But that is important. And I think that is something which can never be compromised. Then another fundamental duty is to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. This is very important. What we are today, it is because of the sacrifices made by the great freedom fighters. Because of the freedom struggle, which was taken up under trying circumstances, loss of life, supreme sacrifices were made. Any number of people died, any number of people spent, in fact, imprisonment, transported from India. And we cannot dilute or undermine the importance of freedom fighters or freedom struggle. Don't try to conduct a post-mortem. Don't try to conduct or dissect what happened in the past that cannot be changed. Look at the better things. Look at the positive things, the positive contribution made. Rewriting history is not going to help as far as the freedom struggle is concerned. Who did what and when, everything is part of the history. Right? And it is a duty of everyone, especially the younger generation, to respect the ideals of our national struggle for freedom. This is important. To uphold the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. This is one of the goals of the Constitution also. There must be unity, national unity. Our sovereignty must be respected. Our integrity must be respected. For example, recently we have seen the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, which was notified this year in January. And many protests were made. Lot of criticism came, lot of support came. Now the matter is pending before the Supreme Court. Fine. But it is our internal matter. One of the issues relating to our sovereignty. If our people are going to be affected, let them avail the constitutional remedies. Fine. But at the same time, if some committee of United States of America or in some other country passes a resolution, condemns, are we doing the same thing in other countries? I don't think so. India always, in fact, maintained its non-aligned stand for a very long time. That is threat to our sovereignty. We cannot shout slogans against our own country. You can't say, some other nation is Jindabad or our nation is Murdabad. Absolutely not. You can appreciate others, but don't degrade your own country. That's what the meaning is. So integrity of India. Because the divided India which we have inherited in 1947 after independence. In fact, the necessary binding force is in the Constitution. But very unfortunately, today the country appears to be really divided. I only hope that my statement is wrong. Because we are divided horizontally, vertically. That should not be the case. It is a fundamental duty of every citizen to respect our sovereignty, unity and integrity by our personal actions as well as the government action. To defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. I think in this case, no Indian will go back. Certainly, they will be coming forward either to work as volunteers or as part of the armed forces or terrestrial army or to do compulsory service. Constitution, Article 23 also speaks about this. That is fundamental duty. They can't, for example, it's not like attending election duties. So nowadays it seems 30 to 35% of the personnel who are drafted for election duty, they are absent on many grounds. Some of them may be genuine grounds also. This is one important aspect. Then again, when we talk about to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood among all the people of India, that is very important. Common brotherhood, fraternity. Yeah, fraternity is important. Common brotherhood is important. And this fundamental duty says that we have to transcend religious, linguistic, regional and sectional diversities, because there is no identity crisis for us. India is a great country with so many diversities, but there must be unity in diversity. There must be accommodation of others' views, others' feelings, but not at the cost of, in fact, violating our fundamental duty to promote the spirit of common brotherhood. Because sometimes, I should be replaced by we. Then only we means all of us, not we, not a sectional diversity. This is one. And to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. I think this calls for a lot of debate, because we are living in a country where it is said that, yatra naryastu pujyante tatra ramante devata. Where the women are worshipped, even gods also will be happy. Point is very simple. We are not worshipping, we are not supposed to worship women, but respect them, give them their due. We must treat them with equality. But the point is, whether such a thing is happening. By and large, yes, positively seen, certainly many efforts are being made. Today, even permanent commission also is granted, thanks to the Supreme Court, to women in army and navy, etc., etc. But at the same time, there are practices derogatory to the status of women. The continuous violence, sexual or otherwise, against the women, against children, against older people, that is something which cannot be tolerated. I think value system needs to be revisited. Human values must be preserved, must be protected, and must be followed. I think once this value system, the DNA is correct, everything follows suit. No amount of loss will really prevent it. No amount of death penalties will really prevent it. 4 persons in Nirbhaya's case got hanged, executed this year. But after their failed attempts made number of times to stay, to postpone this and that. But has it stopped the trend of the women being made victims? That is the point I am trying to make out. Fine. Whatever may be the case, whatever may be the nature of practice which is derogatory to the status of women, dignity of women, must be renounced. I think it is in the Indian ethos and culture. This duty we should not lose sight of. We cannot remain silent spectators when such a thing happens, whether it happened in Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly or Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly or in a public office or anywhere else or in a private meeting or party. Rupam Dayol Bajaj case too, many other cases can be discussed, but time will not be sufficient. But our duty is to protect the dignity of women, to value and to preserve rich culture and composite culture, rich heritage and composite culture. Because ours is composite culture. Unless we respect, we accommodate, we equally value the other's culture, and all others also value our own culture, because there are so many cultures, so many languages, so many traditions, and probably in terms of these, India is the richest country in the world, culturally and otherwise. There is a need to preserve our, Bharatiyata, the Indianness, not belonging to any particular community or caste, the Indianness, that is the greatest thing. And we must be proud of it. That is one. Then to protect and improve the natural environment, this is important, because fundamental duties are invoked by the Supreme Court, various high courts, National Green Tribunal, on number of occasions, especially in the case of this fundamental duty. Environmental protection is not only the duty of the government, but the duty of the citizens also. It's a fundamental duty to improve the natural environment, including the forests, the lakes, the rivers, and wildlife. And what's happening, sustainable development is one concept which probably gets forgotten sometimes. We must take care of the future generations' needs, the larger public interest, and we must insist on ecocentric approach. Let the forests be in existence. Let wildlife be, vibrant, alive. Let human beings be there. That is universe, not anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism means man-centric, human-centric. Everything is not for the sake of human beings. It is equally meant for the other components of the ecosystem. Ecocentric approach is necessary. This is one. Then wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. This is another important aspect. On this occasion, we must remember, where is the compassion nowadays? Most of the times you come across an accident victim. You come across many persons. Recently, during COVID-19 crisis, we have seen, the tenants not being allowed into the rented houses by the landlord, saying that, you are COVID positive, or you are supposed to be, or you are suspected to be COVID positive. Don't enter. We have seen, in fact, many such tragic incidents. Whether it is human beings, animals, whatever it is, we must have compassion for the living creatures. If somebody meets with an accident, if he is in the middle of the road, how many people really come to his rescue? I'm very sorry to say, sometimes we also may not do that, thinking that our time is more important. But that is not a human trait. That is not in tune with our fundamental duty. This is one more important aspect. Then, to develop scientific temper, this is important. For everything, there is a scientific reason. We have to question, we have to test, we have to look for a scientific justification. There must be a thesis, hypothesis, testing of that, right? And we can't totally believe only in superstition or our own, in fact, preconceived notions. That should not be the case. Humanism, greatly necessary. Spirit of inquiry and reform. Reforms are also necessary because everything is dynamic in modern times. They have to keep on changing. And I will come to another very important fundamental duty, to safeguard public property. I think here, most of the Indians fail. If you look at any number of constructions that take place by encroaching footpaths, by encroaching the roads, by encroaching government lakes, necessity is not the ground, honestly speaking. Are we really protecting the public property? Similarly, destroying the public property in the name of agitations, so on and so forth. When a newly acquired bus of Road Transport Corporation is burnt by agitators, who are the losers? Ultimately, it is the people. I think the government will collect with compound interest, not from only those agitators, but also others who are not participating. Importance of protection of public property can never be undermined. This is very, very important. If we protect the public property, it is a duty of every citizen, not necessarily a private citizen, including the government. Then another important point is to abjure violence. Dr. Ambedkar said, you achieve all these goals, but stick to constitutional methods. Constitutional methods. That's very important. Violence cannot be resorted to. For example, recently, in a judgment which was, in fact, given on in the first week of October, a judgment relating to Shaheen Bagh, the demonstration in Delhi. The Supreme Court said that there must be a place where the public protests and demonstrations must be conducted, not a residential area, right? What happens is that people, they chose that place, that common place, which is accessed by everyone. Then they start on a dharna for hours, for days, for months together. The same thing happened in Shaheen Bagh. I am not saying anything in support or against the CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, because the matter is sub judice, pending before the highest court of the land. What I am trying to say is that what happens to the residents? People bring cows, people bring buffaloes, people bring, push carts, pull carts. They go for nature call. They do everything there only. What happens to the right to privacy of the people, the residents? That is why the Supreme Court said that, in fact, the protest must be at a designated place. Certainly, this is, something, a timely warning given to all. If we want to make our voice heard, we must think of ingenious ways of protest. There should not be any mental bankruptcy in our minds, saying that only when we shout slogans, when we block the road, when we, in fact, to prevent everything, once are said to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, nobody follows. This is the point. Then to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity. This is very important. The nation should rise to higher levels, constantly rise to the higher levels. If the person who invented black and white TV remained there, what would have happened? Where is the flat TV? Where is the color TV? Where is plasma? This and that. Same the case with telephone. We have to make endeavor to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective life. That's what keeps us going on. That's what makes us relevant. Can any person, even today, 90 years old person also learns how to use internet, how to browse. Even the so-called semi-literates or illiterates, they are also better off. They can use their voice in order to interact with people who are far away in other countries. That is one such instance. The last one I have already explained. Parents and guardians must provide effective opportunities for providing education to children between 6 and 14 years. This is another important aspect. Just I'll take another 5 to 10 minutes and stop. As far as the fundamental duties are concerned, it is not necessary to go into the background, but I will tell you that in India, either there is no sufficient awareness of the fundamental duties or there is no effective implementation of them. Reasons could be technical, legal, and otherwise also. I mentioned about Justice J.S. Verma Committee, which was constituted in 1998. The purpose of this committee was to plan a strategy and to work out for a methodology for operationalizing the program throughout the country for teaching fundamental duties and making them enforceable. Just by printing them on the textbooks or backside of the textbook, last cover and all, we are not going to effectuate them or implement them, because there is a need of sensitization. There is a need to, in fact, sensitize the people that it is the duty, fundamental duty, which must be discharged. Then only, I think that they stand on a better moral footing to ask for their rights. Legally, there is no connect now. You can't say that, no, you did not discharge your fundamental duty, therefore, your fundamental right or any other right will not be, protected. That is not the case. But it is a moral obligation. I think it should be made a legal obligation. That's important. And failure to discharge, what happens is this. You come across the people, just look around yourself, who come in swanky cars and throw their garbage into, others' colonies. What kind of fundamental duty is that? And if you witness 100 vehicles going on a road, you will find that 90% of them don't stick to the lane. Left-hand overtaking is quite common. Honking, horn, pressing the horn is something very common. Without that, people don't. Are they really discharging fundamental duties? Establishment of religious places in the middle of the road by causing traffic jam almost 24 hours every day. Overnight, the goddess comes, belonging to all the religions. I'm not saying X, Y, Z. Is it fundamental duty? I think, these things must be taken into consideration. When 50 years of Indian Constitution was completed in the year 2000, National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution was appointed under Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya, former Chief Justice of India. They also quoted the observations of Justice J.S. Verma Committee. And National Commission to Review Working of the Constitution recommended inclusion of some fundamental duties also. For example, they say, this is very interesting fundamental duty, to foster a spirit of family values and responsible parenthood to foster a spirit of family values. Today, family is getting disintegrated. If the family has values, society is safe, nation is safe, corruption will be less, whatever. So, responsible parenthood, that is also equally important. The responsible parenthood in the matters of education, physical and moral well-being of children. It's a duty of the parents. Unless we teach them, we make them practice. Where is the question of those people following these values once they grow up? It's a fundamental duty. Unfortunately, it is not included. And duty to vote. This is one of them. In fact, Justice Verma committee said that there must be duty to vote at elections. Without voting, how can we expect the results of governance? Without making an effort to participate in the political process by electing the deserving persons, how do we expect better governance? Unfortunately, that is also, not considered for inclusion in the fundamental duties so far. Then similarly, duty of industrial organizations to provide education of children of the employees. I think it is done to some extent. Just by including more and more fundamental duties, but ignoring the non-implementation or non-enforcement of existing fundamental duties will not help. But without the cooperation and contribution of the people, fundamental duties cannot be effectuated. That is the point. Because ultimately it is the people who are manning all this. Now I'll come to the last few minutes, then I'll explain in Telugu. Now there is an imminent need on the Constitution Day. I think it is our duty to remember very first fundamental duty, namely to abide by the Constitution. When you abide by the Constitution, automatically you have to understand what fundamental duties are and how they can be enforced. Every citizen must foster a constitutional culture by abiding by the Constitution. This is very important. Because not for the benefit of single individual, for the benefit of all. Then there is one more important aspect. I think we must move away a little from our rights consciousness. India is a rights conscious nation. Everybody talks about rights only. About the duties, no one talks. That should be changed. And we must give more focus to the duty consciousness also. I'm not saying that every Indian citizen is irresponsible. I will be wrong if I say that. There are substantial number of people who are following these fundamental duties. But we need greater adherence to that. That's very important. Then, if possible, I think fundamental duties must be made legally enforceable. We must punish those people who are not discharging these fundamental duties. Don't say, no, you do it under Water Act, Air Act, or some other act. Not that. In fact, fundamental duties themselves must be enforceable under a single law. And lastly, what I would say is that if we want a better nation, a better society, discharge of fundamental duties is essential. The most important. If we don't discharge our fundamental duties, we have no moral right to question the authorities, to question the fellow citizens about protection of our rights. Once we discharge our fundamental duties, probably we stand on a better moral footing and ideal footing to question them about violation of our rights. So I take this opportunity to wish all of you a very happy Constitution Day 2020 falling tomorrow. Then I will explain in Telugu. In just 5 minutes, I'll wind up with the permission of the authorities. Can I go on for another 5 minutes?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
ఇప్పుడు తెలుగులో కొద్దిసేపు మాట్లాడుకుందాం. మిత్రులారా, మీకందరికీ తెలుసు, ప్రతి సంవత్సరము 26వ నవంబర్ తేదీ నాడు రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవాన్ని జరుపుకుంటున్నాం మన దేశంలో. 2015వ సంవత్సరం నుండి ఈ ప్రక్రియ ప్రారంభమైంది. అంతకన్నా ముందు దీన్ని ఒక న్యాయ దినోత్సవంగా జరుపుకున్నాము, ఇప్పుడు కూడా జరుపుకుంటున్నాం. దాంతో పాటు రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవంగా కూడా జరుపుకుంటున్నాం. ఈ తేదీ యొక్క విశిష్టత మీకు అందరికి తెలుసు. ఇదే రోజు 1949లో మన రాజ్యాంగ సభ కాన్స్టిట్యూయెంట్ అసెంబ్లీ ఈ మన గొప్ప రాజ్యాంగాన్ని ఆమోదించింది. ఎన్నో ఆశలతో మన ప్రజలందరికీ అవసరమైన సుపరిపాలన, సంక్షేమ రాష్ట్రం, స్వేచ్ఛ, స్వాతంత్రం, సమానత్వం, సౌభ్రాతృత్వం ఇవన్నీ కల్పించడానికి మన రాజ్యాంగాన్ని ఇదే రోజు నాడు మనము ఆమోదించుకున్నాం. ఈ రాజ్యాంగం రాయడానికి, చర్చించబడడానికి, ఆమోదం పొందడానికి ఎంతో మంది మహనీయులు వాళ్ళ యోగదానం చేశారు. డాక్టర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఈ రాజ్యాంగ రచనా సంఘం యొక్క అధ్యక్షునిగా ఉన్నారు. వారు ఈ నావకు చుక్కానిగా పనిచేశారు. ఆయన్నే ప్రధాన శిల్పి. ఆయనతో పాటు మిగతా వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది కూడా వాళ్ళ యోగదానం చేశారు. దాంట్లో అల్లాడి కృష్ణస్వామి అయ్యర్ గారు ఉన్నారు, కృష్ణచారి గారు ఉన్నారు, కేఎం మున్షి, బిఎన్ రావు. రాజ్యాంగ ఫస్ట్ డ్రాఫ్ట్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ఆయన్నే తయారు చేశారు అప్పుడు ఆ కాలంలో. డ్రాఫ్ట్ అంటే అది ఫస్ట్ డ్రాఫ్ట్, తర్వాత మొత్తం చాలా చేంజెస్ వచ్చాయి. ఏదేమైనా మనము భారతదేశంలో ఒక రాజ్యాంగ సంస్కృతిని పెంపొందించుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉన్నది. రాజ్యాంగ సంస్కృతి అంటే రాజ్యాంగాన్ని గౌరవించడం, రాజ్యాంగాన్ని ఒక సర్వోన్నత చట్టంగా గుర్తించడం, రాజ్యాంగము అందరికీ వర్తిస్తుంది అని గుర్తించడం, రాజ్యాంగం ద్వారానే మనకు వస్తున్న అధికారం కానీ, విధులు కానీ, ప్రభుత్వ అధికారాలు కానీ, లేకపోతే ఈ న్యాయ వ్యవస్థ, శాసన వ్యవస్థ, తర్వాత కార్యనిర్వాహక వ్యవస్థ, వీళ్ళందరికీ కూడా రాజ్యాంగం నుంచే ఒక మూలాలు ఉంటాయి. ఇది ఒక ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఇష్యూ. ఈ రాజ్యాంగ సంస్కృతి అన్ని వర్గాల ప్రజల్లో, అన్ని అధికార వర్గాల్లో, అన్ని ప్రభుత్వ సంస్థల్లో పరిఢవిల్లాలంటే ఖచ్చితంగా మనము మన ప్రజలపైన, అధికారులపైన, న్యాయశాఖ పైన, ఈ నాన్ గవర్నమెంటల్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్స్ లేకపోతే ఈ ఎన్జిఓస్ పైన వీళ్ళందరి మీద కూడా బాధ్యత ఉంది. కానీ వీరందరికన్నా ఎక్కువ బాధ్యత ప్రజల మీద ఉందని నేను భావిస్తా. ఎందుకంటే న్యాయ వ్యవస్థలో కూడా ప్రజలే ఉంటారు, మనకున్న ఎమ్మెల్యే ఎంపీలో కూడా ప్రజలే ఉంటారు, అదేవిధంగా ఈ సొసైటీ, ఈ సేవా సంస్థల్లో కూడా ప్రజలే ఉంటారు. సో ప్రజలకు ఈ ప్రాథమిక విధుల గురించి సరైన అవగాహన ఉంటే ఖచ్చితంగా రాజ్యాంగ సంస్కృతిని మనం పెంపొందించుకుంటాం. ఆ పక్షంలో ఖచ్చితంగా మనం ఒక సుపరిపాలన అందించుకోగలుగుతాం, ఒక సంపన్న దేశాన్ని సృష్టించుకోగలుగుతాం, అదేవిధంగా మన హక్కుల్ని, మిగతా వాటిని పరిరక్షించుకోగలుగుతాం. అయితే ఈ ప్రాథమిక బాధ్యతల గురించి ఇంతకుముందు నేను చెప్పినట్టు ప్రాథమిక బాధ్యతలు అనేవి లేకపోతే ప్రాథమిక విధులు అనేవి మన రాజ్యాంగంలో మొదటి నుంచి లేవు. కారణాలు ఏమైనా ఉండొచ్చు. అప్పటి రాజ్యాంగ నిర్మాతల వాళ్ళ మనోభావాలు, వాళ్ళ సిద్ధాంతాలు కావచ్చు, లేకపోతే మనం కొత్తగా స్వాతంత్రం వచ్చింది కాబట్టి మన బాధ్యతలు బాగా తెలుసు, మళ్ళీ ఎందుకు చెప్పుకోవడం అని కావచ్చు. ఏదేమైనా 1976లో స్వరణ్ సింగ్ కమిటీ ఒక రికమెండేషన్ ద్వారా వీటిని 42వ రాజ్యాంగ సవరణ ద్వారా మన రాజ్యాంగంలో ప్రవేశపెట్టారు. ఆర్టికల్ 51A క్రింద మొదట్లో 10 ప్రాథమిక విధుల్ని మన పైన వాళ్ళు చట్టపరంగా విధించారు. తర్వాత 11వ విధిని 2002వ సంవత్సరంలో ఈ విద్యా హక్కు చట్టం వచ్చినప్పుడు మన తల్లిదండ్రులు, సంరక్షకుల మీద పిల్లలకు 6-14 సంవత్సరాల మధ్యలో ఉండే పిల్లలకు సరైన విద్యా అవకాశాలు కల్పించాలని చెప్పారు. సో ఈ 11 ప్రాథమిక విధుల్ని మనము కూలంకషంగా అర్థం చేసుకొని వాటిని అమలు చేస్తే ఖచ్చితంగా మనం రాజ్యాంగ ఫలాల్ని పూర్తిగా మనము అనుభవించవచ్చు. సో దీనిలో ఈ మిగతా అన్ని అంశాల గురించి, ఆ 11 అంశాల గురించి చెప్పాం. రాజ్యాంగాన్ని గౌరవించడం, మన జాతీయ జెండాను గౌరవించడం, జాతీయ గీతాన్ని మనం గౌరవించుకోవడం, అదేవిధంగా మనం ఈ స్వాతంత్ర పోరాటం చేసిన మహనీయుల్ని కూడా గౌరవించుకోవడం, ప్రజా ఆస్తుల్ని పరిరక్షించుకోవడం, మహిళలను కించపరిచే విధంగా ఉన్న ఏవైతే ఆచారాలు సంప్రదాయాలు ఉన్నాయో వాటిని ఖండించడం, పర్యావరణాన్ని పరిరక్షించుకోవడం, ఒక సౌభ్రాతృత్వాన్ని పెంచుకోవడం, ఇది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఎందుకంటే మనం మిగతా కులం కావచ్చు, మతం కావచ్చు, ప్రాంతం కావచ్చు, భాష కావచ్చు, ఇట్లాంటి అడ్డంకులన్నింటినీ అధిగమించి మనం ఒక సౌభ్రాతృత్వాన్ని, ఒక కామన్ బ్రదర్హుడ్, కామన్ సిస్టర్హుడ్ అనే ఫీలింగ్ మనం తీసుకురావాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. అది కూడా ఒక ప్రాథమిక విధి. ఇంకా మిగతాయి కూడా ఉన్నాయి దీంట్లో. అయితే ఈ ప్రాథమిక విధుల్ని ఏ విధంగా అమలు చేయాలనే విషయంలో 1998వ సంవత్సరంలో మాజీ ప్రధాన న్యాయమూర్తి జస్టిస్ జేఎస్ వర్మ గారి నేతృత్వంలో ఒక కమిటీని అపాయింట్ చేశారు. అప్పుడు వాళ్ళు విద్యా సంస్థలకు ఈ బాధ్యత ఎక్కువ ఉంది అని చెప్పారు. నేను అనుకునేది ఏంటంటే విద్యా సంస్థలు ఒక్కరి మీదనే కాదు, ప్రతి వ్యక్తి మీద, ప్రతి పౌరుడి మీద కూడా ఈ బాధ్యత ఉంటుంది. సో వాళ్ళు జస్టిస్ వర్మ కమిటీ వాళ్ళు, కమిషన్ వాళ్ళు చెప్పిన దాని ప్రకారం ఏంటంటే ఈవెన్ ఓటు వేసే బాధ్యత కూడా ఒక ప్రాథమిక విధిగా మనం భావించాలి. అదేవిధంగా ఈ మిగతా ఈ పొలిటికల్ ప్రాసెస్ లో, అంటే ఈ రాజ్యాంగ లేకపోతే ఈ రాజకీయ ప్రక్రియలో కూడా భాగం పంచుకోవడానికి మిగతా దానికి ఉండాలని చెప్పారు. అదేవిధంగా మన భారత రాజ్యాంగ పనితీరును సమీక్షించడానికి 2000 సంవత్సరంలో అప్పటి గవర్నమెంట్ ఏదైతే ఒక ఎంఎన్ వెంకటాచలయ్య గారి నేతృత్వంలో ఒక కమిటీ వేసినారో, జస్టిస్ ఎంఎన్ వెంకటాచలయ్య కమిటీ, వాళ్ళు కూడా ఈ మన జస్టిస్ వర్మ గారి ఆ కమిటీ యొక్క రికమెండేషన్స్ ను వాళ్ళు ఆమోదించినారు, ఆమోదపూర్వకంగా మాట్లాడినారు. వాళ్ళు కూడా కొన్ని సూచనలు చేసినారు. దాంట్లో ఏంటంటే మొత్తం ఈ ఫ్యామిలీ, అంటే కుటుంబ వ్యవస్థలో కుటుంబ విలువల్ని, ఒక బాధ్యతాయుతమైన ఈ తల్లిదండ్రులతనాన్ని, అంటే పేరెంటేజ్, అంటే సంరక్షణని వాళ్ళు బాధ్యతాయుతంగా పిల్లలకు మంచి విలువలతో కూడిన బాల్యాన్ని గడపడానికి వాళ్ళు మానసికంగా, శారీరకంగా ఏ విధంగా ప్రయత్నం చేయాలని, అవి కూడా దాన్ని ఒక ప్రాథమిక విధిగా చేర్చాలని వాళ్ళు చెప్పారు. ఏదేమైనప్పటికీ కూడా భారతదేశంలో ప్రాథమిక విధుల పట్ల అవగాహన లోపం ఉందని చెప్పక తప్పదు. ఇప్పుడు ఈ రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవం సందర్భంగా మనం అందరం మన రాజ్యాంగ విధుల్ని గుర్తుంచుకోవాలి. అదేవిధంగా వాటిని గుర్తుంచుకోవడం ఒక ఎత్తు, అర్థం చేసుకోవడం ఒక ఎత్తు, అమలు చేయడం ఇంకొక ఎత్తు. దీన్ని మనం వాటిని సమర్థవంతంగా అమలు చేస్తే, అంటే మనం మిగతా వాళ్ళకి ఇబ్బంది కాకుండా మన ప్రాథమిక విధుల్ని మనం కరెక్ట్ గా నిర్వర్తిస్తే ఖచ్చితంగా భారతదేశం ఒక సుసంపన్న దేశంగా అవతరిస్తుంది. అదేవిధంగా మన హక్కులు కూడా సంపూర్ణంగా పరిరక్షించబడతాయి. అప్పుడు ఇన్ఫాక్ట్ మన దేశంలో హక్కుల గురించి ఉన్న అవగాహన బాధ్యతల పట్ల ఉండదు. మన దేశంలోనే కాదు, చాలా దేశాల్లో ఇదే పరిస్థితి ఉంది. అయితే ఈ భావన అనేది మారాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. మనము హక్కుల భావనే కాకుండా బాధ్యతల భావనను కూడా మనం పెంపొందించుకోవాలి. ఈ బాధ్యతలు సమర్థవంతంగా మనం నిర్వర్తించినప్పుడు ఇన్ఫాక్ట్ హక్కుల గురించి మాట్లాడాల్సిన అవసరం కూడా రాకపోవచ్చు కొన్ని సందర్భాల్లో. ఇప్పుడు పోయి మనం జిహెచ్ఎంసి, మన గ్రేటర్ హైదరాబాద్ మున్సిపల్ కార్పొరేషన్ లో మా కాలనీలో లేకపోతే పక్క కాలనీలో చెత్త పూర్తిగా నిండిపోయిందండి, మీరు మీ చెత్త బండిని పంపించలేదు అంటే అసలు అక్కడ వేసే వాళ్ళంతా మనమే కదా. అదేవిధంగా రోడ్ల మీదకి వచ్చి ఇల్లు కట్టుకునే వాళ్ళు ఎవరు? చెరువులు. ఇప్పుడు నో డౌట్ బీదరికము ఇవన్నిటిని మనం అధిగమించాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. కానీ చెరువులో ఇల్లు కట్టుకుని అది మునిగిపోతే మళ్ళీ గవర్నమెంట్ మీద పడ్డం ఎందుకు? వాట్ ఐఎమ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు సే, నేను చెప్పేది ఏంటంటే మనము ప్రభుత్వ అధికారులమైన, సాధారణ ప్రజానీకమైన, న్యాయమూర్తులమైన, లేకపోతే ప్రొఫెసర్లమైనా, ఇంకేమైనా కూడా ముందుగా మనం సిటిజన్స్, పౌరులం. అందుకోసమని మన పౌర బాధ్యతల్ని సమర్థవంతంగా నిర్వర్తిస్తే ఖచ్చితంగా మనము ఒక బెటర్ ఇండియా, ఒక బృహత్తరమైన భారతదేశాన్ని చూడగలుగుతాము. ఒక మంచి సురక్షిత సమాజాన్ని కూడా చూడగలుగుతామని ఈ సందర్భంగా నా వ్యక్తిగత అభిప్రాయం. సో ఈ అవకాశం ఇచ్చినందుకు మన ప్రెస్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్యూరో హైదరాబాద్ వారికి, అదేవిధంగా డైరెక్టర్ మేడం శృతి పాటిల్ గారికి, కోటేశ్వరరావు గారికి, శివచరణ్ రెడ్డి గారికి, మిగతా అధికారులందరికీ కూడా నా ధన్యవాదాలు. అదేవిధంగా ఇంతవరకు ఓపికగా విన్న మీ అందరికి కూడా రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవ 2020వ సంవత్సరం రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవం రేపు మనం పాటించబోతున్నాం. ఆ సందర్భంగా మీ అందరికి కూడా శుభాకాంక్షలు. ధన్యవాదాలు. నమస్కారం.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed a very enlightening exposition. I would just like to leave the floor open for questions, if any. If any participant wants to ask questions to sir, they can please do so. Anyone? I think, sir, your explanation was so lucid that people have internalized what you have said. And taking forward the points you have told us, it would indeed, we will take it further by giving out your statements or your whatever your thoughts are in by further multiplying it on our social media handles and the media, so that it reaches wider audience, and really the purpose of the Constitution Day is fulfilled. And I would, while immensely thanking you for your time today and such a brilliant exposition, so that am I audible?
Madam, someone trying to ask questions, madam.
Okay. Please carry on. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Raghav, sir, please ask, sir.
Sir, namaskaram. Namaskaram, sir.
నమస్కారం అండి. నమస్కారం.
మీరు చాలా ఎలాబరేట్ ఫండమెంటల్ డ్యూటీస్ మా వాట్సాప్ ఇప్పటి సందేశానికి వాళ్ళని ఇన్స్పిరేషన్ ఇచ్చింది. అదే నా ఫండమెంటల్ డ్యూటీస్ అని షేర్ చేసుకుంటాను.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
There are somebody in the chat box is saying there are no questions because sir has touched on all aspects. Yeah, that is what I was telling earlier, sir. While we thank you immensely for being there with us, I would like to request my colleague Haribabu Garu to propose the formal vote of thanks now. Haribabu Garu cheppandi, your mic is off, I think.
ఈ రోజు సంవిధాన దివస్ సందర్భంగా వినపడుతుందా మేడం? ఆ సంవిధాన దివస్ సందర్భంగా రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవాన్ని ఈ నెల ప్రతి సంవత్సరం ప్రతి ఏడాది మనం నవంబర్ 26వ తేదీన రాజ్యాంగ దినోత్సవాన్ని సంవిధాన దివస్ గా జరుపుకుంటున్నాం. ఈ సందర్భాన్ని పురస్కరించుకొని ప్రెస్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్యూరో అలాగే రీజనల్ అవుట్ రీచ్ బ్యూరో జాయింట్ గా ఈ రోజు ఇక్కడ వెబినార్ మనం నిర్వహించడం జరిగింది. ఈ వెబినార్ లో ప్రధాన స్పీకర్ గా ముఖ్య అతిథిగా పాల్గొన్నటువంటి రాజ్యాంగ నిపుణులు లా కళాశాల సీనియర్ ప్రొఫెసర్ డాక్టర్ జీబీ రెడ్డి గారు ముఖ్య అతిథిగా విచ్చేసి మనకు అనేక విషయాలు తెలియజేశారు. ముఖ్యంగా సార్ మన రాజ్యాంగానికి మూల స్తంభాలైనటువంటి 4 అంశాలను తెలియజేశారు. ఒకటి స్వేచ్ఛ, సమానత్వం, సౌభ్రాతృత్వం, సమన్వయం. ఈ మన రాజ్యాంగానికి మూల స్తంభాలు. వీటిని మనం పరిరక్షించుకోవాలంటే, వీటిని మనం కాపాడుకోవాలంటే, ఈ రాజ్యాంగం స్ఫూర్తిని మనం కొనసాగించుకోవాలంటే మన ప్రాథమిక విధులు మనం సక్రమంగా పాటించాలని, కేవలం హక్కుల గురించి కాకుండా హక్కులో మనం ఎప్పుడైతే మనకి హక్కుల గురించి మనం డిమాండ్ చేసే అర్హత ఎప్పుడు వస్తుందంటే మన ప్రాథమిక విధులను మనం సక్రమంగా పాటించినప్పుడే మన హక్కుల గురించి మనం డిమాండ్ చేసే మనం ప్రభుత్వాన్ని అడిగే మనకి హక్కు వస్తుందని ఆయన చాలా వివరంగా చెప్పారు. ముఖ్యంగా ఆయన కంటెంపరీ ఇష్యూస్ ని టచ్ చేస్తూ, అంటే రాజ్యాంగంలో మనకి బాబు రాజేంద్ర ప్రసాద్ గారు అలాగే డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ గారు ఏ స్ఫూర్తినైతే రాజ్యాంగంలో పొందుకొచ్చారో అటువంటివి మన కొనసాగిస్తూ ఇప్పుడు ప్రజెంట్ జేఎస్ వర్మ కమిటీ మన రాజ్యాంగ విధులు ఎలాగా ప్రజల్లో ముఖ్యంగా నేటి తరంలో అంటే యువతలో సరే టెక్నాలజీ డెవలప్ అయిన తర్వాత అసలు మన జాతీయ పతాకం, జాతీయ గీతం, అలాగే మన జాతీయ క్రీడల గురించి కానీ పర్యావరణం గురించి కానీ పట్టించుకోని పరిస్థితులు ఎదురవుతున్నాయి. ఈ పరిస్థితుల్లోనే మనకి 1998లో జేఎస్ వర్మ కమిటీ, అలాగే 2000లో మనకి జస్టిస్ ఎంఎం వెంకటాచలయ్య గారి ఏర్పడిన కమిటీలు ప్రాథమిక ఆవశ్యకత, నేటి తరం ప్రజలందరికీ ప్రాథమిక విధుల గురించి మనం అవగాహన కల్పించడం కాకుండా ఆ విధులను పాటించే విధంగా ఏ విధంగా చేయాలి, మనలో స్పృహ ఎట్లా కల్పించాలనే విషయాన్ని చాలా సాధారణంగా ఉదాహరణలతో సహా ప్రజెంట్ మనకి ఈ మధ్య ఇప్పుడు జరుగుతున్న జిహెచ్ఎం సెలక్షన్స్ మొదలు పెట్టుకొని సార్ అన్ని వివరించారు. మీరు ఇంత సమయం వెచ్చించి ముఖ్యంగా ఇంత బిజీ టైంలో కూడా సార్ లాసెట్ కన్వీనర్ గా కూడా ఉన్నారు. సార్ చాలా బిజీ షెడ్యూల్లో కూడా మాకు సమయం ఇచ్చి మమ్మల్ని అందరినీ కూడా ఎడ్యుకేట్ చేసినందుకు, ఈ రాజ్యాంగ స్ఫూర్తిని మాకు కలిగించినందుకు మా పత్రికా సమాచార కార్యాలయం తరఫున, ప్రెస్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్యూరో, మినిస్ట్రీ ఆఫ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ బ్రాడ్కాస్టింగ్ తరఫున, అలాగే రీజనల్ అవుట్ రీచ్ బ్యూరో తరఫున అక్కడ అందరికీ కూడా మీకు మా డైరెక్టర్ శ్రీమతి శృతి పాటిల్ గారి తరఫున, మా డైరెక్టర్ జనరల్ వెంకటేశ్వర గారి తరఫున ప్రత్యేకంగా మీకు ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాము. అలాగే వెబినార్ లో పాల్గొన్నటువంటి వివిధ న్యాయశాస్త్ర లా కాలేజీ స్టూడెంట్స్, అలాగే మా డిపార్ట్మెంట్ సంబంధించిన అధికారులు, సిబ్బంది అందరికీ కూడా మరోసారి మా పిఐబి అండ్ ఆర్ఓబి తరఫున సార్ మీకు ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాం సార్. జీబీ రెడ్డి గారు, ఇది గ్రేట్ ఆపర్చునిటీ వాజ్ టు హియర్ యువర్ వాల్యుబుల్ స్పీచ్ సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ వన్స్ అగైన్ సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ మేడం. మేడం,
Thank you once again. Thank you, sir. Bye.
చాలా బాగా మాట్లాడుతున్నారు.
ఇంకా వెబినార్ కాబట్టి కొంచెం కొద్దిగా